Good evening. I'm Byron Scott with a CTV News update. Well, police are investigating an early morning homicide. It happened here at the High Point Grocery and Tobacco on the 4400 block of Wheeler Road at the D.C. border at around 4:40. Investigators say the victim was shot. Police discovered his body inside the store. Police say so far there are no suspects and the motive is unknown. Meantime, state police are investigating a shooting that happened on the Beltway yesterday. Police say a black SUV was merging on I-495 in the northbound lanes near exit 11A Monday afternoon when someone in a black Maserati or Porsche SUV shot at the driver of the black SUV. The suspect's vehicle has temporary Virginia tags. Anyone with information on the incident is asked to contact the Maryland State Police. And the new superintendent of Prince George's Schools held a meet and greet with members of the media this morning. Millard House took over the post held by Monica Golson on July 1st. House brings with him nearly 30 years of education experience in 5 states, most recently in the Houston Independent School District, where he served as superintendent. One of the areas he plans to focus on as part of his vision is school safety.
We'll be utilizing some screening equipment at our high schools this summer. So that's actually in play right now. But we'll also be moving forward to ensure that this security enhancement equipment, and I think better known as metal detectors at one point, but this equipment will be in each one of our high schools, and we'll be piloting it in several of our middle schools as well. So we're excited about making sure that our community understands that we're not only putting plans in place, but we're executing fairly quick in terms of what these plans should and will look like.
House also talked about the new clear backpack policy. We'll hear more from Millard House tomorrow. Well, a bond hearing was held this afternoon for the 17-year-old male who police say came to school with a loaded gun. It happened yesterday afternoon, the first day of summer school at Central High School. School resource officers searched the teen after he allegedly was seen the weapon in his waistband. There was no disruption to classes, and the school was not put on lockdown. The 17-year-old was charged as an adult. He faces numerous weapons offenses and was ordered held without bail. Well, new tech could soon be coming to the county. Officials today proposing establishing a program incentivizing the research, manufacturing, and development of semiconductors and computer chips that are used in various technologies. This legislation piggybacks on the federal government's $2.8 billion investment in semiconductor production.
We have a large amount of industrial space that to date has mainly been used for warehousing and storage. Well, we're more than a warehouse county. We can be a county that is at the cutting edge of the 21st century economy. And computer chip development, manufacturing, research is going to be a critical part of worldwide economic growth for quite some time. And we want to be one of the leaders in that. We don't want this opportunity to pass the residents of our county by.
If passed, sponsors of the bill say it will lead to an increase in value and jobs in the area. And you're watching CTV News. I'm Byron Scott. Coming up, will a brewing homeowners crisis lead to another foreclosure catastrophe? Patricia Villone brings us a special report on that issue over the next 2 days. We'll be back in just a minute. Stay tuned.
I suddenly collapsed. I could hardly breathe. Everything went dark.
I'm gonna help you. I'm calling 911.
Thankfully, 2 wings of light landed on my chest, and I was brought back to life. A stranger, a fearless hero, touched my heart and saved my life. Our hands are wings of life. Learn hands-only CPR. Visit heart.org/CPR heroes.
Well, a homeowner crisis quietly making its way across the U.S. is hitting the local community hard. But as foreclosures steadily creep up, advocates say more needs to be done. Patricia Villone has been working for the last 7 months on a special report which examines the root causes of the crisis.
The housing market crash that sparked a global financial crisis starting in 2007 was generally thought to be over several years later. But now some financial advisors and civil rights organizations are warning that residual effects from that time are causing an uptick in new foreclosures. In the first of a 2-part series, we take a look at why some old loans are getting new life in the court system.
And I asked the company, the mortgage company, to see if they could put the mortgage on the back, anything to help me to stay in the house and to try to catch up that way, but of no avail.
Dion Getz first started feeling financially stressed after her husband, a Marine Corps veteran, passed away in 1996. She started several businesses to stay afloat, which eventually failed. It was right in the middle of the subprime mortgage crisis. Beth Jacobson, a foreclosure compliance consultant, says many buyers were put into predatory loans due to something called reverse redlining, a concept that developed around the year 2000 when major servicing companies targeted African American communities with subprime loans.
And what Wells Fargo did in particular, because I was on the calls, and so I was able to testify to that fact, as Wells Fargo stated, we're going to seek out the ministers, for example, in Baltimore City, and say, if you invite Wells Fargo in for what we call a wealth building seminar, and if any of your parishioners either refinance or purchase with a Wells Fargo loan, Wells Fargo was going to donate $350 to the church. That in itself was fine because the church was a nonprofit. That wasn't an issue. What the ministers were not told, what the parishioners were not told, is the only loan officers that showed up were subprime loan officers.
Redlining is a discriminatory practice that consists of the systemic denial of services, such as mortgages, to residents of certain areas based on income, race, or ethnicity. Reverse redlining is the opposite, where people are targeted for credit based on the same traits, but on unfair terms. Jacobson says reverse redlining was rampant in Prince George's County and other minority districts 20 years ago. Some servicers eventually settled with the Department of Justice for millions of dollars. But some homeowners with those old second mortgages thought they were included in their loan modification deals or refinanced loans. Some simply forgot about those old mortgages because they stopped receiving statements. Instead, lenders held on to those second mortgage notes from the early 2000s and waited until the homes were no longer underwater.
All of a sudden with COVID, there was a spike in the value of homes. And so then these servicers that represent these investors that hold these second mortgages said, all right, now there's equity in these homes. Now's our time to foreclose.
$100,000 notes can skyrocket to $200,000 overnight with inflated foreclosure costs as well as attorney and late fees. That's exactly what happened to Dion Getz, who at the beginning of the recession tried to get assistance from her mortgage company, government officials, and nonprofit organizations. But by 2016, her home was foreclosed and her belongings were haphazardly thrown on the street.
And at the time all this was going on, my son was over in Iraq fighting the war. And it was so heartbreaking that a child of yours is fighting a war, and on the other end, the county is putting us out.
If you need help on your mortgage, don't wait for the foreclosure process to begin. Contact the Maryland Homeowners Assistance Fund for help at dhcd.maryland.gov. In part 2 of my series tomorrow, we'll learn about a new post-pandemic foreclosure crisis.
And tune in tomorrow for the second segment of Patty's special report on foreclosures. And coming up, Simon Buggs with your Tuesday Sports Page report.
What's going on, everyone? And coming up in sports, more news surrounding the MLB draft. Don't go anywhere.
Heather and I had an argument just like any other couple. I was lost and lonely. I had snapped. I had a gun and I was going to take my own life. Heather helped me realize that there was still life to live for the better of myself, my family. My weapon is now safely put away. A moment of crisis can happen to anyone. Store your gun securely, locked, unloaded, and away from ammo.
July is National Theft Prevention Month, but did you know that a vehicle is stolen in Maryland every 47 minutes? State police say more than 11,000 cars were stolen statewide in 2021, and that half of those cars had the keys left inside. That's why troopers are emphasizing the importance of not leaving your keys inside your car and to always lock it up.
And with valuables, right? Don't leave any valuables in your car. And if you do, make sure they're out of sight. Are they in the trunk? Are they, covered up in the back? So people walking by look in and they don't see anything. And make sure your cars are locked. A lot of thieves will go through neighborhoods or parking lots or businesses and just try door handles and look to to see if your car's unlocked.
Officials also encourage drivers to park in well-lit areas. Well, police arrest a man linked to 2 of 8 reported scams in the county last year. Investigators say 59-year-old Keith Twiggs targeted 2 older women in the county in what's known as a pigeon drop scam. As part of the scam, victims are convinced they can split a large amount of money after giving up some of their own. In another reported pigeon scam, victims have lost up to $60,000. Police say Twiggs was in possession of nearly $21,000 in counterfeit cash and a scam note when he was arrested. Well, Montgomery County Police need your help identifying a body found in Seneca Creek over the weekend. Police were called to an area of Black Rock Road and Seneca Creek Trail last Sunday evening for a report of a body found in the creek. Investigators say the male victim was murdered. He had several tattoos, including a Grim Reaper holding a gun and a chain link with a cross underneath. Anyone with information on the victim is asked to contact police. And Bowie State University began its Campaign for Excellence fundraiser in December of 2021 with a goal of $50 million by 2025. Today, BSU celebrates reaching that goal 2.5 years early. At a press conference this morning, University President Dr. Aminta Bro spoke of her gratitude and how the funds will be used.
Bowie State University's campaign accelerated into a new level of recognition and funding. As part of the campaign, gifts have been raised for a variety of purposes, including the University Endowment, which has increased 500% from just $7 million in 2017 to $40 million today. And unquestionably, Bowie State University students have benefited from the increased giving and endowment as we are able to now provide more students with more private scholarships.
Major contributors include Adobe, Baltimore Gas and Electric, the Kevin Durant Charity Foundation, and philanthropist Mackenzie Scott.
All right, sports fans, it's time for your Tuesday sports page. In baseball news, more Terps' dreams came true as 3 more were selected in the MLB draft last night. The first Terp, Nick LaRusso, was selected by the New York Mets. LaRusso's talent is undeniable as he led the team in RBIs, batting average, and hits this past season. LaRusso was also named an All-American this past year. The next Terp, Luke Schleiger, was selected by the San Francisco Giants. With this selection, Schleiger became the first Maryland catcher to be drafted since 2015. Schleiger led the nation in runs with 93 and ranked second in walks with 69 this past season. Schleiger was also a part of this past year's All-Big Ten first team. And lastly, pitcher Jason Savicul was selected by the St. Louis Cardinals. Over his Terps career, Savicul became top 5 in the program's history in innings pitched, wins, and strikeouts. Savicul is also a 2-time All-Big Ten selection and the 5th player in Maryland's history to be selected by the Cardinals. And that is your Tuesday sports page. Simon Buggs, CTV Sports.
And that's our news for tonight. I'm Byron Scott. See you tomorrow night. Good night.